The phone jangled, shattering the silence of Detective Mira Khan's apartment. It was a cold, unforgiving November night. The clock on her nightstand glowed an accusing 2:13 a.m. Groaning, Mira reached for the receiver. A voice, raspy and low, whispered on the other end, "Warehouse District, Pier 17, murder." The line went dead. Mira sat up, instantly alert. The Warehouse District was a desolate wasteland of abandoned buildings and forgotten memories, and Pier 17 had a particularly sinister reputation. Mira pulled on her leather jacket, the worn leather familiar and comforting. She checked her revolver, the cold steel a reassuring weight against her hip. Outside, the city was a labyrinth of shadows and flickering streetlights. Rain began to fall, a cold, relentless drizzle that soaked through her jacket. The warehouse loomed before her, a hulking silhouette against the storm-tossed sky. A single, flickering light emanated from a window on the top floor like a malevolent eye watching her approach. As she stepped inside, the air grew heavy, thick with the scent of dust and decay. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the drip-drip of water seeping through the leaky roof. Mira's hand hovered near her holster, her senses on high alert. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. This was no ordinary crime scene. This was a carefully staged tableau, an invitation into a killer's twisted game. The warehouse floor was a canvas of darkness, punctuated by the stark beam of Mira's flashlight. The air, thick with the metallic tang of blood, sent a shiver down her spine. Her light fell upon a chilling sight. A message scrawled in what she knew to be human blood adorned the far wall. "Welcome, detective, your game begins now." The words were elegant, almost calligraphic, a stark contrast to the gruesome medium. Mira's gaze swept across the room, taking in every detail. In the center, a lone mannequin stood, its plastic skin gleaming eerily in the beam of her flashlight. It was posed in a macabre tableau, its outstretched arm pointing towards a pool of fresh blood that glistened darkly on the concrete floor. There was so much blood. It was impossible to determine how much had been shed, but it was a significant amount. But there was no body, only the blood, the message, and the silent, accusing mannequin. Mira knelt beside the pool of blood, her trained eyes searching for any clue, any indication of who the victim might be, or where they might have been taken. The blood was still warm, which meant it had been spilled recently. Very recently. Her fingers traced the outline of a footprint in the blood, a single, distinct print leading towards a heavy metal door on the far side of the warehouse. Whoever had been here was injured, bleeding, and they had gone through that door. Mira rose, her hand instinctively reaching for her gun. She had a bad feeling about this. Mira approached the door cautiously, her footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness of the warehouse. The air grew colder, the silence more profound. She tried the handle, locked. She stepped back, raising her foot to kick it in, when she noticed something peculiar. Carved into the metal, almost invisible beneath years of grime and neglect, were a series of symbols. She recognized them instantly. They were the calling card of the Phantom Scribe, a notorious serial killer who had terrorized the city a decade ago. His calling card, these bizarre symbols, had been found at every one of his crime scenes, mocking the police, taunting them with their inability to catch him. The Phantom Scribe had vanished without a trace years ago, his reign of terror ending as abruptly as it had begun. Until now. As Mira reached out to touch the symbols, a cold draft swept through the warehouse, slamming the heavy metal door shut with a resounding clang. Mira whirled around, her heart pounding in her chest. The single light bulb that had illuminated the warehouse flickered and died, plunging the building into absolute darkness. Fear, primal and instinctive, coiled in her gut. She was trapped. A distorted voice echoed through the darkness, seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Welcome to my web, detective. Let's see if you can find your way out." The voice was laced with amusement, with a chillingly familiar cadence. It couldn't be, could it? Panic threatened to consume her, but Mira shoved it down, forcing herself to think clearly. This was a game, a twisted game orchestrated by a master manipulator. The Phantom Scribe wanted her to panic, wanted her to make a mistake, But she wouldn't give him the satisfaction. She would not be his pawn. Taking a deep breath, Mira drew her weapon, the familiar weight a source of comfort in the suffocating darkness. She moved slowly, cautiously, her senses on high alert, listening for any sound, any indication of where the voice was coming from, where the killer might be hiding. The silence was her enemy now, amplifying every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind whistling through the broken windows. Mira knew that somewhere in the darkness the Phantom Scribe was watching her, waiting for her to make a wrong move. But she would not crack under pressure. She would find her way out of this labyrinth. She would uncover the truth behind the blood and the symbols, and she would bring the Phantom Scribe to justice, even if it was the last thing she ever did.